Hey guys, how is it going? Alright, I've got a series of games for you here. First few games are actually just going to be with some decks that you're probably familiar with by now. And then I'm going to be branching out into some uncharted territory using a deck that is essentially brand new, although I've been playing it steadily for the last week or so. Actually, maybe even a little bit longer than that, maybe the last couple of weeks. I will leave you to guess and speculate what that commander might be. But for the time being, we're going to be playing a few games with, I think, Azami. I was sent an email recently asking me about the contents of this deck, and after taking a screenshot of the current contents, I stuck around for a while and played some games with it and had a couple of good ones. So this is the first of those games. And in this one, I am up against Karlov of the Ghost Council. This guy's easily, in my opinion, the best of the black-white dedicated generals. Certainly better than Teysa, and much better than the 4 and 5 mana Ghost Council guys. Mainly because it's so cheap, it can slip out around counter magic and start pressing a huge threat very, very early in the game, and slots in really well with a lot of the other efficient black and white removal and disruption and stuff. I've actually had a very hard time with Karlov in the past. It's a deck that's given my control decks quite a bit of trouble, mainly because they can get it out often before you can deal with it in the early game, and by the time you've drawn some tools to handle it, it's already grown out of control, and you're kind of in a chump blocking situation, or you're just straight up dying to the fact that it's a 6/6 or an 8/8 or something. And it even removes blockers if you happen to get anything in its way. So it can just be rampaging over your face before you know what's happened. It does generally involve them drawing a few key cards, but they have a lot of redundancy in the life gain effects, and it doesn't take much before it's really gotten out of control. I have a very keepable draw. It's just missing one land to really be ideal, or maybe some acceleration. But I do have an early counterspell to hopefully keep Karlov from getting any support, and disallow as well to hold the fort until I can get this Tezzeret online, and probably just try to beat him with Veldic and Shackles, which is going to be the goal here. He's keeping his hand. Let me get Karlov out of there. And on turn 1, he has just about the best play his deck can produce. I think that probably the Sarah Ascendant would be even worse, given that it does kind of what Soul Warden does, and he doesn't even need to cast anything else to pump it up, as well, of course, beating me in the face for 6 every turn. But Soul Warden is pretty deadly with Karlov, of course, because he'll be able to cast it on turn 2 because he went first, and it'll start in play as a 4/4. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me this game. This is very indicative of the kind of start that Karlov can have that really gives control decks, and especially mono blue, fits. Alright, I've drawn my 3rd land, so that at least is good. I gotta hope at this point he just doesn't have a black mana to go with his planes. Lo and behold, he does. I couldn't really expect much less. So down comes Karlov, and of course because of the Soul Warden ability, it activates itself, and it's already a 4/4. So I'm facing enormous pressure already, and it's only going to get worse. Karlov's an example of one of those creatures that's just made way, way better in EDH format. Kind of an example of a commander that, as long as your deck supports the theme of the general and backs it up, it's just so deadly because it's reliably castable on turn 2. Alright, I can't do much other than just sit here and hope that he doesn't have 2 creatures to stack on top of his Karlov, and I can hopefully counter one of them to keep the growth of the creature under control for a little while. Alright, he's tapping out for a Drana's Emissary. Not only gains him life when it's going to come into play, but gains him life every upkeep, and of course I have to lapse that. And I don't really have any time or luxury to deploy this Mystical Tutor, I think. I'm probably going to have to be tapping out next turn as well. Or not tapping out, but keeping my mana available. If he does nothing on the next turn, I suppose I could just Mystical Tutor for something. And I'm probably going to have to bounce the Karlov once I've got enough mana in play to both bounce it and then immediately counter it when it comes back out. That's not a likely scenario, though. Okay, I've drawn Fabricate. And as much as I would like to go and fetch an artifact with this right now, I don't see that I can risk tapping out. I need to get some value out of the Disallow, and he's not putting so much pressure on me that I feel like I have to do an emergency Fabricate, and I feel like I can just sit back. I mean, obviously I know he's got the Drana's Emissary, and I think he'll probably tap out to play it next turn. So I'm going to just hope that he doesn't have that and another creature for 1 mana. There's the Emissary again, so I'm rewarded for sitting back and holding onto the Disallow. And he doesn't have another play, which is super key, because this thing staying at 4/4 is very, very important as far as my commander damage is concerned. Alright, play an island here. And now I don't really have much of a choice. I'm going to have to fabricate. And as you know, I normally go get Mana Crypt without a second thought. But looking at my mana situation, I don't really feel like I need a Mystical Tutor right now. And because that's the situation, and I'm not going to just be flashing out a Snapcaster Mage to block. That's really unlikely. So I decide I'm going to go get Soul Ring just because I don't want to be worried about taking extra damage from Crypt if I'm able to stabilize. Because if I am able to stabilize this situation, I could easily be in single digits, and the Crypt could become a huge liability that I would not want to worry about. Plus, I've got a fair amount of mana next turn and can cast Tezzeret if I absolutely need to. But I'm not under that much pressure right now. If he plays 2 more creatures, I'm in deep shit, though. Alright, he only has 1 for now. So Karlov's going to smash me for 6, and that's very important that it's 6 and not 8. Because as you can see, I've got 14 commander damage now, and 6 means I'm 1 short of just dying automatically to it. And I see him tap 2 more mana, and it's for Demonic Tutor, which normally I'd be very, very worried about. But then he doesn't play another creature, which is really strange. And I'm not sure why he would do that. I mean, obviously he would get something good, but I think playing another creature here nearly cements the victory. This thing grows to 8/8, and means that he can even remove counters from it to destroy a potential blocker. And plus it also represents an automatic lethal clock next turn. So I'm not sure why he wouldn't get a creature there. I'm sure he has plenty of 1-drops that he could have gotten, but he did not get one, which is very fortunate. Okay, so here we are. I've got 7 mana available. I could play Tezzeret and fetch Shackles and immediately start grabbing stuff. But I think about this for a long time, and I feel like, well, I've got Snapcaster Mage to recycle one of these counterspells. I know that he just tutored, and whatever that card is, it's probably really deadly. It's probably something like Sword of Feast and Famine, or something just untenable that will wreck me even if I'm able to stabilize against Karlov. And I kind of feel like, as much as I'd like to get Tezzeret the Seeker online, it's too risky because he just Demonic Tutored. And I'm better off just adding to the mana a little bit, using Snapcaster Mage to get a blocker out there, and then playing Tezzeret the following turn, or barring that Mystical Tutoring to get a Future Sight, and not a Future Sight, obviously, a Force of Will to protect the Shackles that I'm going to get with Tezzeret the Seeker. So I feel like at this stage in the game, I can risk him having 1 more turn and bashing me for another at least 8 damage, because it means that my long-term prospects, I think, are much higher. So I'm going to just add more mana to the board and chill here and see what he got with the Demonic Tutor. So there's his 3rd card. He plays a land. I doubt it was that. Alright, he doesn't even play anything pre-combat, so he didn't get a creature, which is strange. And again, like if he had just tutored for a creature here, I would be forced to react because this thing would be 8/8 and it would be lethal. But he did not get that. And then he just says done. So I have no idea what he tutored for. And right now I'm going to go with the Force of Will plan. All right. So I'm going to play Tezzeret the Seeker. And actually I'm going to tutor up Shackles. And being able to steal Soul Warden here is also vitally important because it means that he can't just automatically play life by gain life by top decking any arbitrary creature, and that's extremely important because if he could just gain life, of course this thing goes up to 8/8, and even if I were to snag a creature with the Shackles, he could just trivially remove 6 counters from Karlov, remove the creature from the game, and hit me for the final 2 and kill me. So that was super, super fortunate that he didn't make his guy bigger. All right, and during upkeep, I'm just going to snag this thing right away, in case he draws something that has instant speed, gain life, or whatever, or instant speed, gain life, or instant speed, put a creature into play. All right, he just says done. Doesn't play anything pre-attack step, and sends both these guys at me. And I think that him sending the Core Firewalker at my face when I'm still at 13, I think is really rash as well. He should take this opportunity to kill off Tezzeret the Seeker. And he doesn't, so I'm just going to use Soul Warden to block his guy. Still precariously perched at 20 commander damage, and now I probably see what he tutored for. Sunbound. Whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. I can't imagine that this is the card that he tutored for, but maybe he saw some value in it that I didn't see. Either way, it does absolutely nothing, so I don't have to Force a Will it. Alright, let's get those Shackles untapped. Teferi, very, very timely. I was thinking here I would have to just play Azami, but now that I've got Teferi, I just get free mana, so I'm going to untap those 2. Basically cast a 0 casting cost Teferi. And that does allow me... And I think about this for a long time, and I think about whether or not I really... Because I do have 2 mana floating, and it's really tempting to play Azami here. But the more I think about it, the less sense that actually makes, mainly because I can't double up on it with the Minamo anyway. And I really like the flexibility of being able to use the Snapcaster Mage to recur, say, the Disallow. And given that I'm not under that much immediate pressure, I don't want to have to use the Force of Will and throw away the Snapcaster Mage, because that leaves me completely naked to something devastating that he might do. So with that in mind, I decide it's better, just one of those discretion is the better part of valor situations, and I'm just going to wait, because now I can steal the 2/2. I can still counterspell any attempts he might have to gain life. And he casts Crypt Ghast. Normally I wouldn't care too much about this because it's just another thing I can use to chump block his guy, but unfortunately it's got that extort ability on it, and if he has another follow-up and the ability to extort, I know he doesn't have the ability to use the mana right now, but it would get his Karlov up to 8/8, which would mean that I would run out of things. I could potentially run out of things to block it with, because he could remove my blocker with the secondary ability and kill me. So it seems like a good thing to just simply hardcast the Force of Will on. And I'm doing that because I'm not going to have another window to do that, most likely, and I'd like to keep the Snapcaster Mage if I could. The option, of course, would be to just play Snapcaster Mage and recur, say, Disallow or something like that. But I figured that the just hardcasting the Force is fine right now. And of course, there's a bit of a risk in that if he had a way to remove the core Firewalker, he could bash me in the face. But it's not like I have. Well, maybe it would have been. It would have made more sense to actually play Snapcaster there to cast a counterspell, because that way, if he did have a way to remove the blocker, I'd still have a backup blocker. So that was a little unnecessarily risky, I think. Copy Artifact. All right. Now it's time to play Azami. And now, because of the interaction of the... well, I think I'm just going to draw a card here. Yeah, and I get an island, which is also awesome. All right. Yeah, the fact that the Azami is basically free because of Teferi's mighty ability. Now I have the ability to Snapcaster and cast a counterspell from the graveyard. Feeling pretty locked up. And I'm going to go Tutor. And actually, you notice I'm -1 here, and I intended to go get Sensei's Divining Top. But I just simply got a little distracted, and I think I wound up just getting Mox Opal. You'll see me tap a mana here, I think. Oh, no, I didn't use it right there, but I think I do that at the end of the turn, like just assuming that I had a Sensei's Divining Top in play. So it goes back to his turn, and he plays Authority of the Consuls. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under opponent's control, you gain 1 life. Okay, well that's super bad, because that means that if I play the Snapcaster Mage, he will gain a life, and Karlov's ability will be activated. So you see I tap my Mox Opal there, thinking for a second I'm going to go use Sensei's Divining Top to see what's on top of my deck, and then I realize, oh wait, that's a Mox Opal. Can't really look with that. But that's fine, because I'm just going to Snapcaster. And knowing that, of course, I'm going to flash back the Disallow, and now I can draw 2 extra cards while dominating the board with Shackles and his guy. My opponent wisely packs it in, even though I'm stuck at 20 life here. So I thought this was a pretty awesome game. A very good demonstration of how problematic Karlov can be with a fast start against mono blue, and how you sometimes have to just walk right down the razor's edge of lethality in order to get established to the point where you feel safe. I think that if I had gone the other route and I had played Tezzeret and used it right away, I probably still would have been okay. But the way that I played, just because he didn't wind up demonic tutoring for anything of consequence, but the way that I played it made it a lot safer and gave him a lot fewer options that he could use to kill me with. I think I definitely made a mistake on the turn when I hardcast the Force of Will in retrospect. I think I should have played Snapcaster there, because it did give me 2 blockers, and if he had had something like Journey to Nowhere or Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares or something, he would have killed me. But it worked out. I didn't get punished for that, and I've got some more games on the menu. Hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I will see you quite soon.